Pindala, a disciple of Buddha, after gaining enlightenment, returned to his native place of Kosambi to repay the people there for the kindness they had shown him. In so doing, he prepared the field for the sowing of Buddha's seeds. On the outskirts of Kosambi, there is a small park that runs along the bank of the Ganges River, shaded by endless rows of coconut trees, and where a cool wind continually blows. 釈尊の弟子ピンドーラは悟りを得て後、故郷の恩に報いるため、コーサンビーの町に帰り、努力して仏の種をまく電池の用意をしようとした。コーサンビーの郊外に小公園があり、ヤシの並木は果てもなく続き、ガンジスの揚々たる川波は涼しい風を絶え間なく送っていた。One hot summer day, Pindala sat in meditation in the cool shade of a tree when King Udayana came to this park with his consorts for recreation, and after music and pleasure, he took a nap in the shade of another tree. While the king was asleep, his wives and ladies in waiting took a walk and suddenly came upon Pindala sitting in meditation. They recognized him as a holy man and asked him to teach them, and they listened to his sermon. 夏のある日、昼の暑い日盛りを避けて、ピンドラは並木の木陰の涼しいところで座禅していた。ちょうどこの日、城主のウダヤナ王も妃たちを連れて公園に入り、寒原の遊びに疲れて涼しい木陰にしばしの眠りに陥った。妃たちは王の眠っている間、あちらこちらとさまよい歩き、ふと木陰に短座するピンドーラを見た。彼女らはその姿に心打たれ、道を求める心を起こし、説法をすることを求めた。そして彼の教えに耳を傾けた。When the king awoke from his nap, he went in search of his ladies and found them surrounding this man and listening to his teaching. Being of a jealous and lascivious mind, the king became angry and abused Pindola, saying, "It is inexcusable that you, a holy man, should be in the midst of women and enjoy idle talking with them." Pindola quietly closed his eyes and remained silent. 目を覚ました王は妃たちのいないのに不審を抱き、後を追って木陰で妃たちに取り囲まれている一人の出家を見た。陰楽にすさんだ王は前後の見境もなく、心中にムラムラと嫉妬の炎を燃やし、我が女たちを近づけて雑談にふけるとは不埒なやつだ、と悪行を見せた。ピンドーラは目を閉じ、黙然として一言も発しない。The angry king drew his sword and threatened Pindola, but the holy man remained silent and was as firm as a rock. This made the king still more angry, so he broke open an anthill and drew some of the ant-filled dirt upon him. But still Pindola remained sitting in meditation, quietly enduring the insult and pain. Thereupon the king became ashamed of his ferocious conduct and begged Pindola's pardon. As a result of this incident, the Buddha's teaching found its way into the king's castle, and from there it spread all over the country. 怒り狂った王は剣を抜いてピンドーラの頭に突きつけたが、彼は一言も語らず岩のように動かない。いよいよ怒った王はアリ塚を壊して無数の赤アリを彼の体の周りにまき散らしたが、それでもピンドーラは淡然と座ったままそれに耐えていた。ここに至って王は初めて自分の凶暴を恥じ、その罪を詫びて許しを請うた。これから仏の教えがこの王家に入り、その国に広まる糸口が開けた。A few days later, King Udayana visited Pindola in the forest retreat where he lived and asked him, "Honored teacher, how is it that the disciples of Buddha can keep their bodies and minds pure and untempted by lust, although they are mostly young men?" Pindola replied, "Noble Lord, Buddha has taught us to respect all women. He has taught us to look upon all old women as our mothers, upon those of our own age as our sisters, and upon younger ones as our daughters. Because of this teaching, the disciples of Buddha are able to keep their bodies and minds pure and untempted by lust, although they are youthful." その後、幾日か過ぎて、ウダイヤナ王はピンドーラをその住む森に訪ね、その不信を正した。大徳よ、仏の弟子たちは若い身でありながら、どうして欲に溺れず、清らかにその身を保つことができるのであろうか。大王よ、仏は私たちに向かって婦人に対する考えを教えられた。年上の婦人を母と見よ。中ほどの婦人を妹と見よ。若い婦人を娘と見よと。この教えによって弟子たちは若い身でありながら欲に溺れず、その身を清らかに保っている。But, honored teacher, one may have impure thoughts of a woman, the age of a mother or sister or a daughter. How do the disciples of Buddha control their desires? Noble Lord, the Blessed One taught us to think of our bodies and secreting impurities of all kinds, such as blood, pus, sweat, and oils. By thinking thus, we, although young, are able to keep our minds pure. 大徳よ、しかし人は母ほどの人にも、妹ほどの人にも、娘ほどの人にもみだらな心を起こすものである。仏の弟子たちはどのようにして欲を抑えることができるのであろうか。大王よ、世尊は人の体がいろいろの汚れ、血、海、汗、油など、さまざまな汚れに満ちていることを見よと教えられた。このように見ることによって我々は若い者でも心を清らかに保つことができるのである。Honored teacher, still pressed the king. It may be easy for you to do this, for you have trained your body and mind. and polished your wisdom. But it will be difficult for those who have not yet had such training. They may try to remember the impurities, but their eyes will follow beautiful forms. They may try to see the ugliness, but they will be tempted by the beautiful figures just the same. There must be some other reason that the young men among the Buddha's disciples are able to keep their actions pure. 大徳よ、体を鍛え、心を練り、知恵を磨いた仏弟子たちには容易であるかもしれない。しかし、いかに仏の弟子でも、未熟の人には容易なことではないであろう。汚れたものを見ようとしても、いつしか清らかな姿に惹かれ、醜さを見ようとしても、いつしか美しい形に見せられてゆく。仏弟子が美しい行いを保つには、もっと他に理由があるのではあるまいか。Noble Lord, replied Pindola, the Blessed One teaches us to guard the doors of the five senses, where we see beautiful figures and colors with our eyes, where we hear pleasant sounds with our ears, where we smell fragrance with our nose, or when we taste sweet things with our tongue, or touch soft things with our hands. We are not to become attached to these attractive things, neither are we to be repulsed by unattractive things. We are taught to carefully guard the doors of these five senses. It is by this teaching of the Blessed One that even young disciples are able to keep their minds and bodies pure. 大王よ、仏は五感の戸口を守れと教えられる。目によって色形を見、耳によって声を聞き、鼻によって香りを嗅ぎ、舌によって味を味わい、体によって物に触れるとき、その良い姿に心を奪われず、また良くない姿に心を苛立たせず、よく五感の戸口を守れと教えられる。この教えによって若い者でも心身を清らかに保つことができるのである。The teaching of Buddha is truly marvelous. From my own experience, I know that if I control anything beautiful or pleasing without being on my guard, I am disturbed by the sense impressions. It is of vital importance that we be on guard at the doors of the five senses at all times to keep our deeds pure. 大徳よ、仏の仰せはまことに素晴らしい。私の経験によってもその通りである。五感の戸締まりをしないで、物に向かえばすぐに卑しい心にとらわれる。五感の戸口を守ることは、私どもの行いを清らかにする上に、まことに大切なことである。Whenever a person expresses the thought of his mind in action, there's always a reaction that follows. If one abuses you, there is a temptation to answer back or to be revenged. One should be on guard against this natural reaction. It is like spitting against the wind. It harms no one but oneself. It is like sweeping dust against the wind. It does not get rid of the dust but defiles oneself. Misfortune always dogs the steps of one who gives way to the desire for revenge. 人が心に思うところを動作に表すとき、常にそこには反作用が起こる。人は罵られると言い返したり、仕返ししたくなるものである。人はこの反作用に用心しなくてはならない。それは風に向かって椿するようなものである。それは他人を傷つけず、かえって自分を傷つける。それは風に向かって塵を吐くようなものである。それは塵を除くことにはならず、自分を汚すことになる。仕返しの心には常に災いがつきまとうものである。It is a very good deed to cast away greed and to cherish a mind of charity. It is still better to keep one's mind intent on respecting the noble path. One should get rid of a selfish mind and replace it with a mind that is earnest to help others. An act to make another happy inspires the other to make still another happy, and so happiness is born from such an act. 狭い心を捨てて広く他に施すことは誠に良いことである。それとともに志を守り、道を敬うことはさらに良いことである。人は利己的な心を捨てて他人を助ける努力をすべきである。他人が施すのを見れば、その人はさらに別の人を幸せにし、幸福はそこから生まれる。Thousands of candles can be lighted from a single candle, and the life of the candle will not be shortened. Happiness never decreases by being shared. Those who seek enlightenment must be careful of their each step. No matter how high one's aspiration may be, it must be attained step by step. The steps of the path to enlightenment must be taken in our everyday life. 一つの松明から何千人の人が火を取っても、その松明は元の通りであるように、幸福はいくら分け与えても減るということがない。道を治める者はその一歩一歩を慎まなければならない。志がどんなに高くても、それは一歩一歩到達されなければならない。道はその日その日の生活の中にあることを忘れてはならない。At the very beginning of the path to enlightenment, there are 20 difficulties for us to overcome in this world, and they are: 1. It is hard for a poor man to be generous. 2. It is hard for a proud man to learn the way of enlightenment. 3. It is hard to seek enlightenment at the cost of self-sacrifice. 4. It is hard to be born while Buddha is in the world. 5. It is hard to hear the teaching of Buddha. 6. It is hard to keep the mind pure against the instincts of the body. 7. It is hard not to desire things that are beautiful and attractive. 8. It is hard for a strong man not to use his strength to satisfy his desires. 9. It is hard not to get angry when one is insulted. 10. It is hard to remain innocent when tempted by sudden circumstances. この世の中に悟りへの道を始めるにあたってなしがたいことが20ある。1、貧しくて施すことはがたく。2、慢心にして道を学ぶことはがたく。3、命を捨てて道を求めることはがたく。4、仏の財政に生を受けることはがたく。5、仏の教えを聞くことはがたく。6、色欲を耐え忍び、所欲を離れることはがたく。7、良いものを見て求めないことはがたく。8、権勢を保ちながら勢いを持って人に望まないことはがたく。9、恥ずかしめられて怒らないことはがたく。10、ことが起きても無心であることはがたく。11. It is hard to apply oneself to study widely and thoroughly. 12. It is hard not to despise a beginner. 13. It is hard to keep oneself humble. 14. It is hard to find good friends. 15. It is hard to endure the discipline that leads to enlightenment. 16. It is hard not to be disturbed by external conditions and circumstances. 17. It is hard to teach others by knowing their abilities. 18. It is hard to maintain a peaceful mind. 19. It is hard not to argue about right and wrong. 20. It is hard to find and learn a good method. 11. 広く学び深く極めることはがたく。12. 初心の人を軽んじないことはがたく。13. 慢心を除くことはがたく。14. 良い友を得ることはがたく。15. 道を学んで悟りに入ることはがたく。16. 外界の環境に動かされないことはがたく。17. 相手の能力を知って教えを説くことはがたく。18. 心をいつも平らかに保つことはがたく。19. 是非を上げつらわないことはがたく。20. 良い手段を学び知ることはがたい。Good men and bad men differ from each other in their natures. Bad men do not recognize a sinful act as sinful. If its sinfulness is brought to their attention, they do not cease doing it and do not like to have anyone inform them of their sinful act. Wise men are sensitive to right and wrong. They cease doing anything as soon as they see that it is wrong. They are grateful to anyone who calls their attention to such wrong acts. Thus, good men and bad men differ radically. Bad men never appreciate kindness shown them, but wise men appreciate and are grateful. Wise men try to express their appreciation and gratitude by some return of kindness, not only to their benefactor, but to everyone else. 悪人と善人の特質はそれぞれ違っている。悪人の特質は罪を知らずそれをやめようとせず、罪を知らされるのを嫌がる。善人の特質は善悪を知り悪であることを知ればすぐやめ、悪を知らせてくれる人に感謝する。このように善人と悪人とは違っている。愚かな人とは自分に示された他人の親切に感謝できない人である。一方、賢い人とは常に感謝の気持ちを持ち、直接自分に親切にしてくれた人だけではなく、 すべての人に対して思いやりを持つことによって感謝の気持ちを表そうとする人である。